Good morning. My name is Vaughn Keller, and I'm a member of the Worship and Music Committee. My pronouns are he, him, and his. Welcome to our virtual service, First Parish Plymouth congregation. These services will also be posted on our Facebook page and on YouTube. The first part of our service is recorded. The benediction will follow the closing hymn today. Then we will go into our candles of joy and concern, which will not be recorded. Our service today is led by our minister, Reverend Art Lavoie. We hope you stay for a virtual coffee hour and conversations right after the service. Whoever you are, whomever you love, whatever you believe, wherever you are on your journey, come walk with us this hour. Our opening words this morning come from the Reverend John Haynes Holmes. He lived right through the turn of the century, from 1879 to 1664, was a prominent Unitarian minister in New York. He was a pacifist and also a co-founder of both the NAACP and the ACLU. He was noted for his anti-war activism. He writes, "When I say God, it is poetry and not theology. Nothing that any theologian has written about God has helped me much. But everything the poets have written about flowers and birds and skies and seas and saviors of the race and God, whoever he may be, has at one time or another reached my soul. The theologians gather dust upon the shelves of my library, but the poets, they're stained with my fingers and blotted by my tears." Our opening hymn is number 288, All Are Architects.
Morning, everyone. Please join us with the words of our chalice lighting that are on your screen. Love is the spirit of law. This is our great covenant, dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in freedom, seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Our reading this morning is from How to Pick and Eat Poems by Phyllis Cole Dye. Stop whatever it is you're doing. Come down from the attic. Grab a bucket or basket and head for light. That's where the best poems grow, and in the dappled dark. Go slow. Watch out for thorns and bears. When you find a good bush, bow to it, or take off your shoes. Pluck this poem, that poem, any poem. It should slip off the stem easy, just a little tickle. No need to sniff first. Judge the color, test the firmness. So put a poem upon your lips. Chew its pulp. Let its juice spill over your tongue. Let your reading of it teach you what sort of creature you are and the nature of the ground you walk upon. Bring your whole life out loud to this one poem. Eating one poem can save you if you're hungry enough. Take companions poem picking when you can. Visit wild and lovely and forgotten places, broken and hidden and walled up spaces. Reach into brambles, stain your skin, match words against your teeth for love. And always leave some poems within easy reach for the next picker in kinship with the unknown. If ever you carry away more poems than you need, go on home to your kitchen and make good jam. Don't be in a rush, they're sure to keep. Some will even taste better with age, a rich batch of preserves. Store up jars and jars of jam, plenty for friends, plenty for the long howling winter, plenty for strangers, plenty for all the bread in this broken world.
If I can stop one heart from breaking, I shall not live in vain. If I can ease one life aching or cool one pain, or help one fainting robin unto his nest again, I shall not live in vain. If I can stop one heart from breaking, I shall not live in vain. If I can ease one life aching, or cool one pain, or help one fainting robin unto his nest again, I shall not live in vain.
Good morning, everyone, again. I have spent quite a bit of time this summer reading poetry, and especially reading poetry from people of color whose voices are not always heard in our society. And so I'm going to start with this poem. It took a while to figure out which ones to share with you today. How to Write a Poem in a Time of War by Joy Harjo. She is a poet, musician, playwright, and author. She's a member of the Muskogee Creek Nation and is the first Native American to be the Poet Laureate of the United States, a position she currently holds. You can't begin just anywhere, it's a wreck. Shrapnel and the eye of a house, a row of houses. There's a rat scrambling from light with fleshy trash in its mouth, a baby strapped to its mother's back, cut loose. Soldiers crawl in the city, the river, the town, the village, the bedroom, our kitchen. They eat everything or burn it. They kill what they cannot take. They rape what they cannot kill. They take. Rumors fall like rain, like bombs, like mother and father tears swallowed for restless peace, like sunset slanting toward a moonless midnight, like a train blown free of its destination, like a seed fallen where there is no chance of trees or any place for birds to live. No, start here. Deer peer from the edge of the woods. We used to see woodpeckers the size of the sun, red birds, and were greeted by chickadees with their good morning songs. We started to cook outside, slippery with dew and laughter. Ah, those sweet, smoky sunrises. We tried to pretend war wasn't going to happen, though they began building their houses all around us and demanding more. They started teaching their children. They started teaching our children their God's story, a story in which we would always be slaves. No, not here. You can't begin here. This is memory shredded because it is impossible to hold by words, even poetry. These memories were left here with the trees, the torn pocket of your daughter's hand-sewn dress, the sash, the lace, the baby's delicately beaded moccasins still connected to the foot, a young man's note of promise to his beloved. No, this is not the best place to begin. Everyone was asleep despite the distant bombs. Terror had become the familiar stranger, our beloved twin girls curled up in their nightgowns next to their father and me. If we begin here, none of us will make it to the end of the poem. Someone has to make it out alive, saying a grandfather to his grandson, his granddaughter, as he blew his most powerful song into the hearts of the children. There it would be hidden from the soldiers who would take them miles, rivers, mountains from the navel cord place of their origin story. He knew one day, far day, the grandchildren would return. Generations later, over slick highways constructed over old trails, through walls of laws meant to hamper or destroy, over the libraries of the ancestors in the winds, born in stones. His song brings us to his home place in these smoky hills. Begin here. Francisco Javier Alajon was a Chicano poet, born in Los Angeles, raised in Mexico, went back to Los Angeles for college and graduate school. He taught for many years at the University of California at Davis. And I first encountered his work when I was a student at our seminary in Berkeley. And I found a copy of, we used to haunt, there were great used bookstores in Berkeley and Oakland that we used to spend a lot of time in. And I discovered him and found a copy of his book, Body in Flames. And it's a signed copy, looks like this. And he, on one side of the page, the poem is in Spanish, and on the other side of the page, the poem is in English. And I'm not going to try and read the Spanish because that's not my strength. But here is his poem, Prayer. I want a God as my accomplice, who spends nights in houses of ill repute and gets up late on Saturdays. A God who whistles through the streets and trembles before the lips of his lover. A God who waits in line at the entrance of movie houses and likes to drink cafe au lait. A God who spits blood from tuberculosis and doesn't even have enough for bus fare. A God knocked unconscious by the billy club of a policeman at a demonstration. A God who pisses out of fear before the flaring electrodes of torture. A God who hurts to the last bone and bites the air in pain. A jobless God, a striking God, a hungry God, a fugitive God, an exiled God, an enraged God. A God who longs from jail for a change in the order of things. I want a more godlike God. So the next two poems, one of the books I read is this book, Encounters, Poems about Race, Ethnicity, and Identity. And this book is edited, it is published by our own UU Press Skinner House, and it's edited by Paula Cole-Jones, who is UU from Washington, DC, and a founder of an organization called the Dialogue on Race and Ethnicity. And she does a lot of consulting on institutional change and multicultural competencies. And so I'm going to read a few poems from this book. And the first two are fun because they are both written from experiences on the subway. The first one is, this one is called On the Subway by Sharon Olds. The boy and I face each other. His feet are huge in black sneakers, laced with white in a complex pattern, like a set of intentional scars. We are stuck on opposite sides of the car, a couple of molecules stuck in a rod of light rapidly moving through the darkness. He has the casual, cold look of a mugger, alert under hooded lids. He is wearing red like the inside of the body exposed. I am wearing dark fur, the whole skin of an animal taken and used. I look at his raw face. He looks at my fur coat. And I don't know if I am in his power. He could take my coat so easily, my briefcase, my life. Or if he is in my power, the way I am living off his life, eating the steak he does not eat, as if I am taking the food from his mouth. And he is black and I am white. And without meaning or trying to, I must profit from his darkness, the way he absorbs the murderous beams of the nation's head as black cotton absorbs the heat of the sun and holds it. There is no way to know how easy this white skin makes my life. This life he could take so easily and break across his knee like a stick, the way his own back is being broken. The rod of his soul that at birth was dark and fluid, rich as the head of a seedling ready to thrust up into any available light. One of the things that poem struck with me is that it is so often in our culture the voices of those of us who are white that are heard. I would long for us to live in a culture where Sharon, this woman who wrote this, could have gone to that young man and said, I am writing a poem about my perceptions of seeing you across the train car. Could you write something about what you see? I would love to hear his voice. We'd probably get a rap. It would be great to throw a little rap in here right now. That's probably what he would have written. But we don't know who he is or what he's thinking. We just know her story. But then we have a contrasting poem also written about traveling on a subway. And this one is called Blonde White Women. By Patricia Smith. They choke the cities like snowstorms. On the morning train, I flipped through my ebony, marveling at the bargain basement prices for reams of straightened hair and bleaches for the skin. Next to me, skinny pink fingers rest upon a briefcase, shiver a bit under my scrutiny. Leaving the tunnel, we hurtle into hurting sun. An icy brush paints the buildings with shine. Fat spirals of snow become blankets, and Boston stops breathing. It is my habit to count them. So I search the damp, chilled length of the train car and look for their candle flames of hair, the circles of blood at their cheeks, that curt, dismissive glare reserved for the common, the wrinkled, the black. I remember striving for that breathlessness, toddling my 5-year-old black butt around with a dull gray mop head covering my nappy hair, wishing myself golden. Pressing down with my hard carnation pink Crayola, I filled faces in coloring books, rubbed the waxy stick across the back of my hand until the skin broke. When my mop hair became an annoyance to my mother, who always seemed to be mopping, I hid beneath my father's white shirt, the sleeves hanging down on either side of my head, the coolest white pigtails. I practiced kissing because to be blonde and white meant to be kissed, and my fat lips slimmed around words like delightful and darling. I hurt myself with my own beauty. When I was white, my name was Donna. My teeth were perfect. I was always out of breath. In first grade, my blonde teacher hugged me to her because I was the first in my class to read, and I thought the rush would kill me. I wanted her to swallow me, to be my mother, to be the first fire moving in my breast. But when she pried me away, her cool blue eyes shining with righteousness and too much touch, I saw how much she wanted to wash. She was not my mother. The singing Alabama woman who shook me to sleep and fed me from her fingers, I could not have been blacker than I was at that moment. My name is Patricia Ann. Even crayons fail me now. I can find no color darker, more beautiful than I am. This train car grows tense with me. I pulse, steady my eyes, shake the snow from my short black hair, and suddenly I am surrounded by snarling Madonnas, demanding that I explain my treachery. The next poem I'd like to share with you is called Child of the Americas by Aurora Levens Morales. I am a child of the Americas, a light-skinned mestiza of the Caribbean, a child of many diaspora born into this continent at a crossroads. I am a U.S. Puerto Rican Jew, a product of the ghettos of New York I have never known, an immigrant and the daughter and granddaughter of immigrants. I speak English with a passion, it's the tongue of my consciousness, a flashing knife blade of crystal, my tool, my craft. I am Caribena, island grown, Spanish is my flesh, ripples from my tongue, lodges in my hips, the language of garlic and mangoes, the singing of poetry, the flying gestures of my hands. I am of Latino America, rooted in the history of my continent. I speak from that body. I'm not African. Africa is in me, but I cannot return. I am not Tena. Teno is in me, but there is no way back. I am not European. Europe lives in me, but I have no home there. I am new. History made me. My first language was Spanglish. I was born at the crossroads, and I am whole. No UU service on poetry would be complete without a poem by Mary Oliver. She is a beloved poet, often quoted by UU ministers and used. I think one of the things that attracts us to her is that all or nearly all of her poetry is about the natural world. And she reminds us of our seventh principle and our commitment to environmental justice in all of her poems. And so Today is also Valerie's 80th birthday. And Valerie, I know you love whales, so I read Mary Oliver's poem, Humpbacks, in your honor. There is all around us this country of original fire. You know what I mean. The sky, after all, stops at nothing. So something has to be holding our bodies in its rich and timeless stables, or else we would fly away. Off Stellwagen, off the Cape, the humpbacks rise, carrying their tonnage of barnacles and joy. They leap through the water. They nuzzle back under it like children at play. They sing too, and not for any reason you can't imagine. 3 of them rise to the surface near the bow of the boat, then dive deeply, their huge scarred flukes tipped to the air. We wait, not knowing just where it will happen. Suddenly they smash through the surface. Someone begins shouting for joy, and you realize it is yourself as they surge upward, and you see for the first time how huge they are as they breach and dive and breach again through the shining blue flowers of the split water. And you see them for some unbelievable part of a moment against the sky, like nothing you've ever imagined. Like the myth of the 5th morning galloping out of darkness, pouring heavenward, spinning, then they crash back under those black silks and we all fall back together into that wet fire. You know what I mean. I know a captain who has seen them playing with seaweed, swimming through the green islands, tossing the slippery branches into the air. I know a whale that will come to the boat whenever she can and nudge it gently along the bow with her long flipper. I know several lives worth living. Listen, whatever it is you try to do with your life, nothing will ever dazzle you like the dreams of your body. Its spirit longing to fly while the dead weight bones toss their dark mane and hurry back into the fields of glittering fire, where everything, even the great whale, throbs with song. So the last poem for this part of the service, I have one more for the benediction. But it's a curious thing that I found. Seamus Heaney wrote this book-long poem called The Cure at Troy that was taken from one of the myths of the Trojan War by Sophocles. And he kind of rewrote this thing. And here is a section of his poem. And it kind of shows that, we are in a timeless moment that is recurring for us in history, perhaps. Human beings suffer. They torture one another. They get hurt and get hard. No poem or play or song can fully right a wrong inflicted and endured. The innocent and gulls beat on their bars together. A hunger striker's father stands in the graveyard, dumb. The police widow in veils faints at the funeral home. History says, don't hope on this side of the grave, but then once in a lifetime, the longed for tidal wave of justice can rise up, and hope and history rhyme. So hope for a great sea change on the far side of revenge. Believe that a further shore is reachable from here. Believe in miracles and cures and healing wells. Call miracle self-healing the utter self-revealing double take of feeling. If there's fire on the mountain or lightning and storm, and a God speaks from the sky, that means someone is hearing the outcry and the birth cry of new life at its term. It means once in a lifetime that justice can rise up, and hope and history rhyme. Thank you for being here today. Amen and blessed be, and letting me share with you a few of the poems that have touched me this summer. And I invite us to join Jean one more step. So I have to admit that I had never heard of Richard Blanco when he was chosen by Barack Obama to be the inaugural poet at Obama's second inauguration. And I was delighted and thrilled the more that I learned about him. He is a gay Cuban-American poet. He was, in his words, conceived in Cuba, born in Spain, and raised in Miami. For many of us, in whatever ways we feel marginalized, when someone of our own kind of tribe is chosen in such a prominent way, it fills us with joy, and in some ways knowing that that we have been accepted and that we have arrived. Richard Blanco was the featured speaker for the Ware Lecture at General Assembly, I think in 2019, which is about when his new book came out, published by Beacon Press, our other UU press, and it's called How to Love a Country. And it was really tough to pick something from this book to read today, but I chose his poem, America the Beautiful Again, for our benediction, because it's a holiday weekend and because it's one of his great poems. How I sang, oh beautiful, like a psalm at church with my mother, her Cuban accent scaling up every vowel. Oh, beautiful, yet in perfect pitch, delicate and tuned to the radiant beams of stained glass light. How she taught me to fix my eyes on the crucifix as we sang our thanks to our Savior for this country that saved us. Our voices, hymns as passionate as the organ, piping toward the very heavens. How I sang for spacious skies, closer to those skies, while perched on my father's sun-beat shoulders, towering above our first 4th of July parade. How the timber through our bodies mingled, breathing, singing as one with the brass notes of the marching band, playing the only song he ever learned in English. How I dared sing it at assembly with my teenage voice cracking for amber waves of grain that I had never seen, nor the purple mountain majesties, but could imagine them in each verse rising from my gut. Every exclamation of praise I belted out until my throat hurt. America, and again, America. How I began to read Nietzsche and doubt God, yet still wished for God to shed his grace on thee and crown thy good with brotherhood. How I still want to sing, despite all the truth of our wars and our gunshots ringing louder than our school bells, our politicians smiling lies at the mic, the deadlock of our divided voices shouting over each other instead of singing together. How I want to sing again, beautiful or not, just to be harmony from sea to shining sea, with the only country I know enough to know how to sing for. Amen. And blessed be.